I. You shouldn't buy a farm before watching this video. Be patient, I'll teach you the obstacles, pros and cons so you can gain the peace of mind you want. For those who don't know me, I'm Manifako. I've lived on a farm here since I was a child, but I spent a good amount of time in the city, and now, recently, I've come back to the farm. And I'm going to show you what the obstacles are so you can have this life too, man. I really like it. I wrote down the main things here so we can follow along together. First thing, what is your goal with the farm? Do you plan to live there, work, plant something, or just spend holidays and vacations? Because once you decide what your goal is, you'll then determine the size of your farm. And if this is really for you, the first thing is your goal to live there? Besides living there, are you going to do anything else? Because if you just intend to live there and don't plan to do anything else, know that you need a very small farm because a farm itself is a lot of work. You have no idea how much work it takes to keep everything running. Famous singers with large farms look great in photos on their property, but they also have a lot of employees. Can you really afford to keep all those people? To keep mowing for you, planting, taking care of the cattle, taking care of this and that? If you don't have time, you'll just end up living there. Maybe it's better to buy land in the countryside, okay? But be very careful with that because there are some tricks too. Sometimes there's a subdivision they're making out in the countryside. Sometimes it's a very dangerous place, or there are already a lot of people there. It's already turning into a real neighborhood, so you have to stay alert. But anyway, if you're just going to live there, it's not worth getting something too big because you'll have a lot of expenses to maintain it. If you're only spending the holiday there, it's even worse. Oh, I want to have a little farm there with a small house where I can go, spend the holiday, and then go back home. That's an even bigger problem, man, because then you're saying you'll only be there twice a month or maybe just every weekend. How will you keep that place clean each time you visit for the holiday? It's going to be dirty because insects get in, dust gets in, rain gets in, and then it's going to be a mess. You'll spend the whole holiday organizing and return to the city even more tired. So if you plan to buy for the holidays, you have two options. Either you don't buy and rent instead. When you want to go, just get an Airbnb and go there and you'll spend much less. Or you always pay someone to handle this. So before you go, you'll need to pay a cleaning lady and someone to mow the lawn to keep things in order. Now, if you plan to plant there, you're already saying that you need profit. So if you need profit, you need to do the math. Don't just go with excitement. Did you buy that small, nice looking farm? Because sometimes you buy a place to plant and it's too small, it won't fit the plants, man. How many plants will fit on that small farm you want? What's the profit you're going to get there? Here's an example. In Espírito Santo and Minas Gerais in the southeast region, we grow a lot of coffee. So let's suppose you get a piece of land that's 1 hectare, okay? Just 1 hectare. On that 1 hectare, your house will fit, and 1,000 coffee plants, okay? That's the calculation, maybe a bit more. 2,000 coffee plants. How much can you get from that? Not much. You won't be able to support yourself, okay? So you have to be smart sometimes. For those who want to make a profit, it's better to just have a plot for your house and rent a piece of land. Sometimes when you rent, you also get the chance to live in that house, which is what renting is. You find someone with a large property they don't want to maintain, and you offer to maintain it for them. And you'll plant crops there, but you only give the owner a percentage between 10 and 20%. If it's over 20%, it's not worth it. Because you're investing all the money, you pay a higher percentage if someone gives you money to plant. Then it's called Maya, meaning half for each. But if you spend all your own money there, if everything that's put into the land comes from your money, then you only pay a small percentage. This way, you get more land for less money. It's much cheaper than buying and planting the land. Okay? So, do the math. Sometimes you spend everything on a dream and it happens quickly. You'll earn 1,000 raise a month, but what will you do with that? It won't work out. Another option here is for those who have lived in the city their whole life working as a salaried employee earning minimum wage. Then it makes sense to buy land just for you to work on. What else would you do with it if not work on it? If you move to the countryside to work for others, you might pick coffee for a share or work by the day. If you live in the countryside, man, you never stay idle under any circumstances. And the minimum you'll earn per month will be around 3,000 to 4,000 raise. That's the minimum. But there are people making almost 10 with specialized services. What would that be? He specializes in picking sprouts to sell to nurseries and makes good money. He also specializes in spraying pesticides. He gets paid for each tank, and if he becomes skilled, he earns a lot. So if you want to earn money, working in the fields, if you're not lazy, it's much easier to have plenty of jobs in the countryside than in the city. Because in the city, jobs pay much less than that. And there are a lot of people looking for work because it's an easy job, but if you don't mind working, it's worth it. You live and work on a small farm for others, and farm size doesn't matter since you'll always be there. If you buy a slightly bigger place, maybe later you can plant some fruit there. That's a nice thing, right? The important thing is to buy something that's within your means right now. One question you definitely need to ask is, how much water does this farm have, man? This is really important. I'll give the example of this farm here, which used to be my grandfather's farm. Now he's passed away, and it was divided among the siblings. And in total, I think it's about 18 hectares here. It's a pretty big farm. After it was divided among the siblings, it became much smaller. But in these 18 hectares, all the water is concentrated in one place. And if you plant on the whole farm, the water isn't enough. Yeah, this water is just okay. It's barely enough to plant on half the land, so you have to watch that closely. There are a lot of people out there selling farms with the promise of having a beautiful view. You arrive at this nice place with a big open area and stunning view. It's enchanting. The water is on the neighbor's property below and you can access it there. That's a problem. You'll depend on it for life. Maybe it's fine now because the neighbor allows it, but what about in 10 or 20 years? Will it still work then? Will you have that possibility? Maybe after you've already built everything there, you don't have water, then you have to pay a fortune to drill a 300-meter deep well, and it gets really expensive. Expensive water matters, and having a lot is important, but make sure it's not just water. Land can be swampy or prone to flooding. All of this needs to be checked. Water is an essential resource. The other question you should ask is how long you plan to stay on this property, because if you only plan to stay there for the next few years, you can't invest that much. I want to stay on the property my whole life. Well, if I want to stay my whole life, then I'm going to dedicate my life to it. I'm going to take all my resources there. I'm going to build my family in that place, so I'm going to need more space. You won't be able to do all that on a small lot, in a very small place. You're going to want to have a garage, a place to keep animals. You'll want to have a little plant, something like that. And then you want to stay for a long time. You're going to need a little more space. Also keep in mind that if you buy a small farm today for a certain price, in 20 years, if you want to buy the property next door, it will be worth twice as much as yours because the price goes up a lot. In recent years, that's been the case, so if you can buy a slightly bigger one now, that's best. The other key factor is location and accessibility. Sometimes you have a really nice property, but it's 50 kilometers from the city, so just imagine having to go there to do your shopping every week. It will be complicated, so stay organized. Where will you find a doctor when needed? Sometimes it's in a location where, if it rains a lot, you can't get out of there. How accessible is the place? How far is it? What are the roads like? And how do they change when it rains? Prices increase the closer you are to the city, so you'll likely find options much farther out. That's not a problem as long as there's accessibility and you can fit it into your schedule. So, will I have to go shopping every week or once a month? I don't know, it depends. You'll have to go to the city to shop. How much time will you spend doing that? Do you have that time within your work schedule? Ali, can you shop during the day? Supermarkets in small towns aren't open at night, so you'll need to go during the day. Carefully consider these factors before choosing the location and documentation, as it's very important. Sometimes there's a big farmer who's dividing up a large piece of land and selling the small plots. And then the guy is already all tangled up with the law, he doesn't have the documents anymore, and he says he'll get the documents in, I don't know, a few years. Do you really believe that promise? It might work out, but it might not. Just imagine the loss you'll have, the trouble if it doesn't work out. That's why it's important to check if you'll have the documentation, if, when you close the deal, you'll be able to officially transfer that space to your name, and how much will it cost. Sometimes, even if you can afford the property, high documentation costs make it unaffordable, so it doesn't help. Soil topography is really important. Sometimes you buy a property that has a lot of hills, and depending on the slope of the hill, you can't plant anything, so you end up losing that space. Or there's a rock, for example. Just imagine this place here. You buy a property like this with this mountain. What are you going to do with this mountain? You can't do anything with it. When it's too close to the rock, you can't plant either, because the layer of soil over the rock is very thin, very shallow. If you plant and it doesn't grow, that's why you get it, especially in rocky regions. Only have pasture if you own a large area. Otherwise, it's not worthwhile since you can't raise many cattle or make a profit. So all of this needs to be weighed. What is the shape of the land like? You won't be able to get the perfect land all flat, nice with water. You won't, but you have to weigh what's within your possibilities. So the slope of the land is very important. Man, how are you going to get up there to work? How is that going to be? Electricity and infrastructure are crucial. Sometimes land has no electricity, so I need to know the cost to bring it in. You may need to install an electricity meter, which could cost between 5 and 10,000 Rs depending on the installation size. If you build, does the site already have infrastructure? Do you have a small house there? Can that house be renovated, or is it just rubble? The rubble might actually be worse for you because you'll have to remove it from there. How does that work? Is there already something built there? Everything needs to be taken into account because sometimes there's something there, a shack falling apart, and they raise the price of the land by 100,000 just because of that shack, which you won't even be able to use. So what is the structure like? How much is that infrastructure there worth? Sometimes when you look at the land itself, the price seems normal. But if you add up the things that are already on the land, water meter, reservoir, house, barn, if you add up the building costs, they already match the value of the land. That makes it seem like a great deal, so you should check out the land. Considering average costs, how much does it cost to install electricity and dig a well? I'll give an example. I built a dam down there. It cost about 16,000 to build that dam, and there was already a well on the property. We just dug it a little deeper and had to move the soil, so imagine you already have a well-built dam there. How much do you save? All of this comes down to taking into account the climate and the environment, what the climate of the region is like. If you're considering buying a small farm near Santa Catarina because you think it's beautiful from videos, just remember it's cold there. What can you plant in that place? Maybe the place where you want to have your small farm. You can only grow vegetables that you need to be there every day, working and taking care of them. These are short cycles that earn a lot but demand significant effort. You need enough time to manage this. Consider buying a small farm in a drier or warmer location. That has the possibility to plant what you are able to, what you know, or what you have enough time to take care of. So all of this needs to be taken into account there. Can you plant what you want on your small farm? Does the climate there allow it? One of the most important points is the issue of the neighborhood. Many places, especially in the countryside, see an old man pass away, and then issues arise when it's time to divide the inheritance. The children start fighting, and then they begin to sell off lots, and they sell to just anyone. Then a bunch of people show up who don't care about anything, people from the city, maybe bad elements, people involved with drugs, and then it turns into a mess. It's like you have a neighborhood in the countryside that was divided into lots with a bunch of people. There will be loud music, drinking until late, music, drug stuff, and all that same kind of thing. Even if it were in the city, it would be the same, so the peace you want won't be there. That's why you need to pay attention to the neighborhood, man. Before you buy, you can't just trust the guy who's selling to you. He's only going to tell you the good things. You have to walk around the neighborhood yourself and check it out. Is it really all that? Is it really a good neighborhood? Who are the people who live there? Is it trustworthy and safe? That's really important. If you want safety, the city is the worst option. Now, about the cost, a lot of people only focus on that. They just look at that. How much does a plot of land cost? You need to do your research because it varies a lot depending on the place. The closer it is to the city, the more expensive it is. The farther away, the cheaper. So you need to check if the price fits your budget. Mainly, man, if it's really worth it, especially since prices have risen a lot in coffee growing regions like Espírito Santo. I watched a piece of land go from 30,000 to 600,000 in just a few years. Man, it's crazy because people are overvaluing land way too much because there's a lot of people wanting it. Other less populated regions, such as parts of Minas Gerais, offer land for under 50,000 per hectare, so you should look into that. What are the prices and location, and how much does it cost? Will I be able to buy something interesting? Will the financing have installments that I can actually pay? And in the end, will it really appreciate in value? Or actually, am I just giving all my money to the realtor who's selling the land? Be very careful with that, so you don't end up paying too much for something that's not worth it. You also need to check the local laws. Maybe you're trying to go to a place that's a reserve where you can't plant, or maybe the crop you want to grow is prohibited, so you have to check that. Can I plant in that place? What am I going to plant there? Is it allowed? Is there a tree there that will get in my way that I can't cut down because it's prohibited? You have to check what the rules are for that place. Maybe there's a lot of water on the land you're trying to buy, but you can't use it because there's an issue there. Carefully review these laws before buying land and make sure to get a proper inspection. What does that mean? Bringing someone with you who isn't going to buy the land, someone who isn't profiting from it, and who isn't directly your brother or your friend. Someone who understands the subject can provide an outsider's perspective rather than just believing the seller's promises. He'll spot the flaws, he'll find a detail here and another there to try to lower the price and to get you out of trouble. Otherwise, you'll spend a lot making something work and it won't be worth it. It's that simple. You just need to find someone who already lives on a farm, someone who lives on another farm, and take that person there. She already knows how to raise the things you want, and she'll be able to look and see if it's possible there. She'll check everything for you and will help you a lot when it comes to choosing. Man, don't choose on impulse. It's a decision for your whole life. So you need to think about all these points that I showed you. If you want more videos like this, I'm Manifaco. See you next time.